All right, everyone, welcome to the introduction to After Effects. This is the first video demo that I will be posting. This is going to cover the absolute basics of After Effects. And so I know many of you will have previous experience with After Effects by probably a lot of you taking ARS 104. So this video is really for those who have zero experience in After Effects, or for anyone who feels that they may have forgotten how to get started, how to get projects started, and start getting some motion on their screen. So go ahead and open up After Effects. I just have my applications folder open, and I'm going to get it loaded. While this is loading, actually, it's loading pretty quick. I'm trying to do this video all in one take, so without having to do a lot of editing, so I might just be rambling a little bit as we go. All right, so we're going to start with a new project. Over at the top left, I'm going to create new project, and this opens up the main view that you're going to be looking at in After Effects and getting all your work done. Now, I was working on something, I guess my last project, I had the timeline window extended. So usually yours will probably look a little bit more like this. And in getting started, there's a few things that you need to understand in conceptually how After Effects works. So when you see this, you probably start with a new composition. So compositions are how After Effects divides up the different scenes and different sections of your animation. And in this case, you may be using one main composition with a lot of other compositions inside it. So you actually are kind of building up kind of another term is nesting these compositions within each other, and it works similar to layers and artboards if you're familiar with Illustrator or Photoshop. Now it's not a direct parallel because there are layers that you'll see in the timeline, but you can think of it like building these compositions up and to make the one large animation. So if I go in and click on new composition, and by the way, you can change your workspace up here. If I look at the top right now, I have it set to the a text workspace, so it opens up some tools like you see on the right side that are helpful for editing text. But any of these will work. You might just default to animation, but right now I just have mine at text. So I'm going to click on New Composition, and this is where you can name the composition. Like for example, I might just title this Main Comp, and then this is where you can change the proportions of your video. This is 1920 by 1080. That is full HD landscape orientation. If you change this to 1080 width by 1920 height, that will be a vertical video like what you're used to on your phone or Reels or TikTok, something like that. Also, a lot of people for logo animations and things like that, a lot of people like using square compositions. So this is where you might do 1080 by 1080 pixels. And then I have my frame rate at basically 24. This is kind of standard frame rate for cinema, and but it's not the only one. You could use 24 frames per second or 30 are the most common, so I would recommend using one of these. And don't worry about the difference between 23.976 and 24. I would just use either this one or the 30. And then you have a few more options to start with the duration of the composition. Right now, this one is 4 minutes long. So the way these numbers work are on the two zeros on the right of the rightmost semicolon, those are frames. And then it goes to seconds, and then minutes, and then hour. So frames are important. You're going to be doing a lot of work that requires you to go frame by frame. And so we need to be able to see and know how many frames exactly the composition is. So I don't need something that's 4 minutes long. So I'm going to change this. I can just type in here. We'll do something that's 30 seconds long. So that would look like this. 30 seconds and even. And then you can change your background color. Let's just change, for sake of it, let's just change this one to black and press OK. So this is your composition. Now everything that I just showed and edited, that can be changed at any time. If you go up to composition and then composition settings, all of these can be changed. So if I decide I don't like the black background color, I can change it back to white. And if I decide I wanted the square composition, I can change that. So you can go back and change these settings at any time while you're editing. All right. So down here on the timeline, if I'm going to go ahead and draw a, let me change the color, just make it solid black. I'm just going to draw a square. So I clicked on the rectangle tool. I draw a square here on the composition, and you'll notice it automatically added the shape layer 1. So anytime I do this and I draw or make any new layer in my composition, in this case, it's because I was still selected on shape layer 1, it's adding these rectangles within the shape layer 1. Now, I clicked out of shape layer 1, so it wasn't selected anymore. And then when I made another rectangle, instead of adding it into shape layer 1, it made a new layer, shape layer 2. So if it'll come in handy to do one or the other at certain times, just know that if you want a shape or anything else on its own layer, just click out in this blank area right here. I'm just clicking once and you see it deselects that layer, and now I can draw something else and now it makes shape layer 3. So I'm just clicking in a blank area to deselect the layer. All right, and then you're similar to Illustrator and Photoshop, you have a selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. If I click on that, I can select some of these. I want to get rid of them, so I'm just going to press delete, and I can click around, select the different layers. In this case, I'll just delete this one. I'm going to select this longer rectangle. I can move it anywhere in the composition, and it's the shape layer 2. Okay, this is also how, I'll go and delete that one, how text works. So there's a horizontal type tool, and if I select on that, drag a text box, so I'm just clicking and dragging out the text box, and I can type anything in here. Motion. This is where it creates a text layer. And again, if I deselect it, I can make a new text box, motion graphics. So this is the basics, and I have my caps lock on, so that's why it looked a little strange there for a second. So this is the basics of adding these layers, getting started with creating content on your composition. Also, finally, there is a pen tool. Again, if you are familiar with Illustrator or Photoshop, you probably know how to use a pen tool. If I click on that, I can, now I made a mistake. I did not deselect this layer. so it did not make a new shape layer. So I just Command Z that. So I'm assuming everyone will probably be familiar with some of these keyboard shortcuts like Command Z that undoes an action. So I deselected, and then when I use the pen tool, I can draw my own shape, and it creates shape layer 1 again. Deselect it, and then again, I'm just assuming that some people here are maybe complete beginners with some of these tools. So the pen tool is how you really get in there and start creating any shape you want. If you're wanting to do curves like this, instead of just clicking once, if you click and hold down and you drag your cursor, it will make a curve. These are called Bezier curves. All right, so these are some basics in getting shapes and text on your composition. Now we want to start animating. We want to bring these to life. So I'm going to delete these. I'm just going to use this simple triangle to start with. And conceptually, you can think about motion in After Effects through keyframes and the change over time in between those keyframes. So if I have this triangle, let's say it's at the top left, and I want it to move, I want it to animate down to the bottom right, it is undergoing a change in position from here to here over a certain amount of time. Now I'm just clicking and dragging with my cursor right now, but I can illustrate that. If I want the change position to be from top left to bottom right, and it's going to be slow, let's say 5 seconds, it would look something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it changed that position over that amount of time. It could do the same thing. I can go from top right to bottom left over, let's say, 1 second. So 1, and it goes much quicker. So the keyframe interpolation, that is the key word for After Effects, creating the motion in between basically a start and stop point. So again, we'll animate this from top left to bottom right. And to do that, we need to animate the position specifically. So with this layer selected, and I have shape layer 1 down here, you'll notice there's a little arrow to the side of it that I can click on, and it toggles down some menus, and I can toggle these down as well. I'm going to do transform, and under transform I have an option for position. So just like when I was manually clicking and moving the shape around, under position I see these two values. Right now they're set at 180 and -30. So you notice I can click and drag on the numbers themselves. So as I hover over it, I click and hold down and drag, and the number increases or decreases. And this value is the value for the horizontal position, or the position on the x-axis. That's just, these are fancy ways of just saying it's going left and right. And then the number beside it is the position for the value to go up and down, the y-axis, but again, just up and down and left and right. So now as I manually click and drag around, you'll see the numbers, the x and y values by position, they are moving together as I move the triangle. So these values here, anytime you can see something like this, and whenever it has a little stopwatch, that is a value that can be animated. It can be changed over time. And that's really what the stopwatch is a symbol for. It's a measurement of time. So it shows me that value, I can create keyframes of where it starts, where it stops, and then it will fill in that motion in between. And so what I mean by that is what I'll show you right now. So I have, I should back up. This is the point in my timeline. I can see this, what I call the scrubber here. If I move it all the way left, it's at the very start at 0, 0, 0, 0 seconds, 0 frames. It's at the absolute beginning. If I move it forward, it shows where it's at right now. So now at this point where this blue line is, it's right now at 7 seconds and 20 frames. So I'm just gonna move it back to, actually I'm gonna put it at, I can kind of see right, this is 2 seconds. So I'm gonna put it at the 2-second mark, approximately. And then I'm going to click on the stopwatch beside position. Now when I click on the stopwatch, a few things happen. First off, the stopwatch turns blue. That means it is active. And this little diamond has shown up on across from the position value. If I move this ahead, let's say over to 6 seconds, and now I click and drag the triangle down, a couple more things have happened. Now I have this line right here, and I have a second diamond on my timeline. This can also be called the sequence, but I just like calling it the timeline. All right. So with the 2 diamonds here, and these are called keyframes, these are showing you that you've added a start point, a starting keyframe, and an end point, an ending keyframe. And with the position values active, with the stopwatch turned on, it is now, through keyframe interpolation, it is now animating that change in position from this start point to this end point. So we can look at it. Now let me drag the scrubber back to the very beginning, and you can play your animation by pressing the space bar, and you can stop it by pressing space bar again. So I'm going to press space bar now and watch what happens. All right, so you'll notice at the very beginning when I press the space bar, nothing is moving except for this. Now we have this red line that's showing us where we are at in this sequence. So because I put the starting keyframe at approximately 2 seconds, we have 2 seconds of nothing happening. Then when it hits the keyframe, that's when it is starting to animate. And by the way, like I can press the space bar to see it play in real time, or I can click on the scrubber and just drag it around. So as a scrubber goes over the 2-second mark and past that keyframe, the animation is started, and it's going to continue until it reaches the 6-second mark, where this ending keyframe is at, and then after it hits that ending keyframe, then the motion stops, because that's the beginning, that's the end. Before and after, there's no movement. Now, if I want this, well, let's say it's pretty slow, right? It's from 2 seconds to 6 seconds. It's a 4-second animation. It's moving pretty slowly. If I want to speed that up, all I have to do is change the amount of time in between the starting and ending keyframes. So instead of that diagonal motion over 4 seconds, if it was faster, it would be over, let's say, 1 second or 2 seconds. So all I have to do is shorten the time, that space in between the two keyframes. I can do that by literally clicking and moving the keyframe around. So in this case, I'm going to click on that ending keyframe, and I'm going to click and drag it closer to the start. So now that change from this from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, it's going to happen over about 1.5 seconds instead of 4 seconds earlier. As you see, is much faster. I can move it even closer and it'll be very fast. Or I can drag it out and it'll be very slow. We're not going to take time to watch that whole thing. So right there, you have the basics of how After Effects work. So almost, there are some exceptions, but in almost everything that you'll be doing, the motion is controlled by this process. Now there's lots of other effects. Things can be different depending on, if you're animating text or whatever. There will be differences depending on what you're animating, but this process applies to everything. You are creating keyframes that control starting and ending points over a certain amount of time, and that's what creates the animation. Likewise, you see some of these other options here. We were just looking at position, but we also have things like scale and rotation. So again, let's say I put my scrubber back to the 2 second mark. In this case, I'm going to click on the stopwatch by scale. Again, stopwatch turns blue. We get a keyframe. And if I move forward, let's say I'm going to actually have it right here. And I can, in this case, right now the scale is locked, keeps it proportional. So if I click and hold down and drag, I can make it smaller. So now between this keyframe and this keyframe, it is going to be decreasing in size because I had that start keyframe, that starting point at the size you see here. If I just click over here, then this ending keyframe at the size, this much smaller size that you see here. So now if I play it, it gets smaller. It was slowly moving because we still have this position animation turned on, but because the scale animation was happening quicker, we just couldn't really see it, what looked like the movement. So I'm going to click on this keyframe, drag it further over. Actually, we'll just have them closer to where they line up. Not quite, but a little bit. Let's see it now. So now as it gets smaller and changes position to the bottom right at the same time. And we'll do it one more time for the rotation. So I'm going to turn on the stopwatch for rotation and then move my cursor over here. And in this case, I will, just as an illustration, I'm going to keep my scrubber further to the right. And then rotation is done by how many degrees of rotation. Now you'll notice it is rotating around the anchor point here. You can change where the anchor point is to determine what kind of rotation, if you want it to like basically spin or kind of go in a circle, things like that. All right. So now as it moves, it is rotating around. All right, so that is the basic process that you are going to be using for almost everything you do. We will cover a few more advanced things, and as we go this week, I'll be posting other videos. This is where you can get started, and there's nothing wrong with going over the tutorials that I have linked to that other people have made on YouTube. There's just so much to do in After Effects. Like I said before, it is impossible for me to show everything in this class. And even if I did try, it wouldn't leave much time for you to actually get work done. You'd just be watching videos all day long. So it's going to be more about finding specific techniques that achieve the effect you're going for. And a lot of this, I would imagine, please do expect to be sending me emails, and we'll be working on this. I can suggest things and send you stuff to help get you to the place you want to be. And there might be times I'll say, that's a really cool idea, but it's kind of beyond the scope of this class. It might just be too complicated. So be prepared for that as well. But if you're watching these videos that I am recording and uploading, but feel free to go over the other tutorials I've linked, because there's a million and one things that could inspire you, different types of motion. And we're going to cover as many of the basics to provide a foundation, as will be especially useful for the whole semester. So I'm going to wrap up here for this video and get it uploaded, and keep a lookout for others in the near future as well. And please don't hesitate to email me at any time during the week.